Hi, everybody. Jim Ostrowski with the Liberty Moving Podcast. No sunglasses today. I misplaced them on my trip. I feel like Robert Redford in The Natural after his bat cracked. Don't feel very good. So you're going to see me squinting in the sun for most of the podcast until I replace them or find them. Help me, Ava, say a prayer. So I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects: waste, fraud, and abuse. I did a little Google search. Apparently, there's not that many people who realize that this slogan is bullshit. I've been saying it for years, but I keep hearing this. I did a tweet, I don't know, about a week ago. I said, I'm a free speech absolutist, but I think anybody uses the term waste, fraud, and abuse should be given the death penalty. And I'm against the death penalty too, but I just think there should be that one exception. This is just one of the most monumentally stupid slogans. And I'm sorry if I'm offending you. Up your fucking game. It's a stupid, meaningless, bullshit slogan. Nobody should use it. It's dumb. So, let me see if I can explain why. So, there's so many ways to approach this. So, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to progressivism, 1913. Progressivism took over the country as the ruling ideology. The prior ruling ideology was libertarianism. It wasn't conservatism. Conservatism has never been a successful movement in human history. It's bullshit. In fact, the fact that conservatism is bullshit is connected to the fact that the slogan waste, fraud, and abuse is bullshit too. So, it wasn't a perfect libertarian country by any means. I'm talking about the general ideology or underlying philosophy or the mindset was libertarian, and that actually manifested itself in public policies, relatively small government, relatively decentralized. Washington didn't do much, thank God. So ever since 1913, the ruling ideology has been progressivism. So the concept is, the concept is that the government's going to solve all of our problems. Not in some massive, Marxist, revolutionary sense, but kind of like piecemeal, issue by issue, kind of a Fabian socialist approach, where life is happening, and all of a sudden there's problem X, and people say, oh well, I think I know the solution to problem X because I know the solution to all problems, which is some sort of government program, some tax. Government only does 6 things. It only does 6 things, and they all suck. It taxes, regulates, inflates, engages in war, conscripts, and what's the other one? It steals your property in eminent domain. It only does 6 things. So all these 6 things involve aggressive government force, but this is what the progressive believes. The progressive has never proven this because it's obvious nonsense. There's never been an argument for progressivism. Progressivism is it's like a prayer. It's like somebody just saying, I think I'm going to take a cruise around the world. And it's like, okay, that's dumb. You can't afford it, whatever. But the progressive actually can afford a cruise around the world because the progressives put in Got a rare opening here over Kenmore Avenue. Entering Buffalo, it's a slow down, fucker. It's a dangerous, oh no, I'm in a high crime city, Buffalo, and I have no weapon. Look, I have no weapon. I have no print. So dangerous. The gun control people say, America's so dangerous because of the Second Amendment. Well, not that dangerous. So, with the, yeah, I remember what I was saying. I do, because the health regimen is so amazing. So, the progressive can take a cruise around the world because the progressive passed two things in 1913, the income tax and the Federal Reserve, that gives the government access to all of our fucking money. So, the government's going to solve all of our problems. That's the presumptive ideology. And one of the problems is, well, these selfish bastards, when they had freedom, they engaged in self-serving, selfish transactions in the free marketplace. Well, we can't have that. We can't have people doing the shit they want to do. So we got to get rid of all that stuff. We got to create a welfare state and a warfare state and an inflation state and a regulatory state. And we're going to get rid of all those selfish things that those people did. By the way, when you look back, at the architecture of this selfish period, when all these nasty robber baron capitalists were exploiting the working class, you look back at the architecture, beautiful. But more importantly, and I think somebody could devote their life to this, when you look back at the old videos, and you look back at the old photos, and I have, but I would like to do a lot more of it, everybody was dressed to the nines. Everybody was slim and healthy looking. So these bad old days that the historians, we now know that the public schools are just fucking brainwashing operations. I went to a private school, but as I pointed out, in government schools are bad for your kids. The textbook industry is dominated by a few companies because they cater to the 90% of the government schools, that 90% of the schools that are government schools, and private schools are only 10%. So you kind of get the leftovers. So even at St. Joe's High School, I'd learned the standard sort of progressive bullshit theory of all this crap. So that's the model, and we have big government sort of controlling everything. And then other people come along and say, whoa, some of this money is not being spent the way we want. That gets into, there's so many permutations of this fallacy. This money is not being spent the way we want. Well, of course it is, you dumb son of a bitch. Of course it's not, excuse me, you dumb son of a bitch. Why do you think they use a gun to get your money? What? This is one of the analytical points I'd like to take away from this podcast. Once you go from libertarian society, where imperfect libertarian model, where government spending was like 10% of your income, now it's like 40, 50, 60. I think it's actually a lot more because we don't factor in regulations. And so once that dollar leaves your pocket, once the IRS points that gun at you, and once that dollar leaves your pocket, it's gone. It's wasted. It's by definition. Well, what do you mean, Jim? Well, you had that dollar in your pocket, like I'm going to Dash's now, buy local for liberty. I got $1 actually in coins, because, who has cash anymore, to give a tip to the hardworking people there. That's what I want to do with that money. That's my highest and best use for that money. And I got some plastic to pay for the coffee. That's my highest and best use. So you take that $4, $3 from me, and it's going to be used on something that I don't like. I don't know how to make this point any clearer. That's why they have the gun. If they were going to spend it the way you wanted, they wouldn't have the fucking gun. So, in that sense, in the sense of true reality, every single dollar the government spends is wasted, it's fraudulent, and it's abusive. Okay, so that's point one. That's point one. It's all waste, fraud, and abuse. It's all waste, fraud, and abuse. Let me go on to a next point before I forget, because I have no notes. So, conservatism. What is it about conservatives that, well, I know what it is because I've written about it. What is it about conservatives, I'll ask rhetorically, they're always trying to make, like, big government work better. Conservatives, you had one job. Shrink the fucking government. Don't try to make it work better. An example I sometimes see, we have to drug test people who get welfare. Well, wait a second. Why do we have welfare anyway? It's been a huge disaster. It's a mistake. We had private charity. It worked better. Or we had welfare at the local level, which is not libertarian perfect, but it's better than the federal welfare state. All the federal welfare state did was break up the black family, which slavery didn't do. Jim Crow didn't do it. The black codes didn't do it. The chain gang slavery system in the South didn't do it. Fucking welfare state did it. Why are conservatives trying to make the fucking welfare state work better? God, I'm on a roll today. Stop. So this waste, fraud, and abuse. Oh, so I want to make government more efficient. Fuck that. Why would you want to do that? You know, when I hear, and I don't know if it's true or not, I think it's true to a certain extent. When I hear that federal government workers are home, like most of the time, and we all know that when you work at home, you're not work. I work at home. I have to churn it out. But we all know that when you're an employee, I'm the boss, so I can't really, fake it. But we all know when you're working at home, you're not going to be working as hard. And my reaction is, thank God they're not working that hard. Do you really want these people to be working hard? Violating your life, liberty, and property? Starting foreign wars? Conspiring with Brazil to suppress Elon Musk? What the fuck? Yes. That's what the State Department did. Do you want these MFers to be working harder? Why are you that stupid? Conservatives, stop trying to make government work better. Just shrink the fucking monster. So, waste, fraud, and abuse. The term comes in around the 1960s, 1970s. I did an engram today. Didn't really reveal too much, but it's a term that's been around. Well, let's put it this way, actually. Conservative movement starts in 1964. It's been a massive failure. Isn't it interesting that with the rise of the conservative movement, you have this term waste, fraud, and abuse? Why? Let's get back to conservatism as an ideology. It doesn't fucking mean anything. If you want a critique of conservatism, read Progressivism, a primer. Problem with conservatism is it's a reaction. So libertarianism is replaced by progressivism. Libertarianism kind of dies out. I won't go into all the details. Literally, the libertarians died out. A lot of the big ones, like Grover Cleveland, obviously died first. Mark Twain, Albert J. Nock, they literally kind of died out, and they didn't leave followers. So there's this 40-year gap between like 1920 and 1960. There's basically no libertarians. So conservatism is just kind of this reaction against progressivism. And that's the problem with the right wing. I don't consider myself right wing. I don't consider myself left wing. the right is always reacting to the left, because the left is always this sort of pure, simple, seductive idea. Progressivism, the idea is, look, governments can solve all our problems. Leftism is, we're all going to be equal and all going to be happy. No, it's all, but these are powerful, simple ideas that appeal to the masses. And the right doesn't have that simple, single, powerful idea. In fact, nobody even knows what conservatism is. So conservatism is sort of a reactive, weak, ad hoc, how are we going to oppose progressivism? Well, we look at these progressive programs, we see waste, fraud, and abuse, whatever the fuck that means. It's not an ideology, it's the absence of an ideology. So that's the problem with conservatism and its tendency to lapse into these shallow, meaningless cliches. And so I think that will fit into my next and probably my final point, which is this. So we have a progressive country. We still have a progressive country. Progressive meaning most of the people in the United States want big government to solve all sorts of problems. For example, the minimum wage law, Social Security. You take these core big government programs, they're actually popular. So how do conservatives or Republicans win an election in a country where most of the voters, even many Republicans or most Republicans, believe in these big government programs? Well, I talked about this in some of my books. One way to win is I call this the Karl Rove approach. You demonize Democratic personalities. This has been happening all my life. They demonized McGovern. They demonized, remember Bill and Hillary? It was never about policy, because actually Bill was a fairly moderate, almost a centrist president. It was never about policy. Because if you advocate for some radical change in a progressive big government system, you're going to lose elections. You're going to run into policies where, well, the voters really didn't want that. And so how do they win these elections? First of all, as I said, by demonizing Democratic personalities. You see this, now it's Harris, it was Pelosi, it was Obama, Michelle's vacations. Who the fuck cares about Michelle Obama's vacations? That's not where the money is. The money is in the military, it's in socialism security, and it's in Medicare. And then some secondary things like these huge, ridiculous departments that should be eliminated, such as education, HUD. HUD should be eliminated. So, but they don't want to talk about where the money is, where the real spending is. So what do? They con the gullible GOP masses by using the term waste, fraud, and abuse. So it cons the gullible into thinking that something's being done, but they don't actually have to put it on the line and say, I'm getting rid of HUD. Well, where are the poor people going to live? Well, I don't know. Well, I actually have an answer to that. Well, I might lose an election. And as I said the other day, there's if you don't understand this, you don't understand what's happening in the country. There's 3 political parties in the country. There's the Democratic Party. We know them well. They've been basically running the show since 1913. There's the Republican Party of the Bush era, which still exists. And then there's MAGA. So there's 3 political parties. It's interesting that MAGA comes out of the private sector. Donald Trump never had a government job in his life, worked in the private sector. Who are his top advisors right now? Elon Musk, Vivek, private sector. Who's against Trump? The Republican Party. This was illustrated by we got some construction, yikes. I just have to talk loud. This was illustrated by Trump's inability to get his man into the Senate Majority Leader position. The resistance to Gates as Attorney General. Here's the problem with the Republican, the GOP, as opposed to MAGA. They're different. They're two different hostile parties, and the GOP controls almost everything. MAGA controls the White House. Period. GOP controls the House and the Senate. They control the governorships, the 27 or 25 governorships or whatever. I don't know if there's any MAGA. Well, you could say maybe DeSantis. But you remember, DeSantis was the candidate to stop Trump. And he was supported by some of the elements of the old GOP. So, but what is the nature of the old-fashioned GOP? These people have been working for the government their whole lives. They're supposedly going to represent the party of the private sector, the party of liberty. It's all bullshit. The Republicans haven't repealed a single progressive program since 1913 because leopards don't change their spots. They grow up into the local Republican machine where they work for the government. They rise up from county legislature to state legislature to Congress to Senate. All the while they've been working for the government. And you can't work for the government and be anti-government. I'm sorry. It's not how the world works. The reason is we all rationalize what we do. And if you work for the government your whole life, I'm going to wrap this up in a minute or two. If you work for the government your whole life, you're going to rationalize what you do. So guys like McConnell, McCarthy, Thune, Cornyn, Lindsey Graham, these guys really like the government. They ain't going to get rid of shit. So that's basically the problem with waste, fraud, and abuse. It's a meaningless slogan. I'm writing a book on how Trump can use libertarian ideas to make America great again. I'm going to propose specific cuts. You can't make government more efficient. You can't eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. And the reason, by the way, I talked about the progressives wanting to get rid of the self-interest of the market system. But that's all waste, fraud, and abuse is after the government's created these programs, human self-interest reemerges. You want to, you get the food stamp, you're supposed to buy food. No, you want to trade it for drugs. You're going to have that sort of free market element operating inside, paradoxically, inside the government. It's all it is the failure of progressives to eliminate the selfish profit motive that human beings have by nature. So, but the bottom line is waste, fraud, and abuse is a meaningless slogan that politicians use to con the masses, but not actually lose votes by cutting anything that the masses actually want, because they've been brainwashed to be progressives in government school. I hope I've wrapped all this together. I've thrown a lot of concepts on the table. I think it makes sense. I'll do some more. I hope it makes sense. I'll do some more on this in the future. But the bottom line is waste, fraud, and abuse is bullshit.